Good evening. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, during yesterday's press conference held to announce a ZOSO in Parade Gardens, central Kingston, asserted that there is no other sovereign authority on the island than the government of Jamaica. This while addressing questions about the ACCOMPONG Maroon community. Here is Colleen May with more on this story.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness has rejected the Maroon claim to being a sovereign state in the cockpit country. The issue has come to the fore again after questions emerged as to whether the Holness administration would fund projects being undertaken by the Richard Curry-led Maroon administration. But the Prime Minister dismissed the claim of Maroon sovereignty as a dangerous premise. He says there is no other legitimate authority in Jamaica.
Jamaica is a unitary, sovereign state. There is no other sovereign authority in Jamaica other than the government of Jamaica. I want that to be absolutely clear. None. And under my leadership, not 1 inch of Jamaica will come under any other sovereign authority. What you are asking would be another for the government of Jamaica to fund, take taxpayers' money and grant funds to fund another government. This is not a government saying they are a local government, a parish council government, which is under our constitution. Are you crazy? Really? Do you know what you're asking? This is the stuff of how guerrilla wars come and states break down. Wake up, Jamaica. Don't court foolishness and problems. Wake up. People have died as a result. And you expect me to stand there as Prime Minister and fund activities that could lead to the breakdown of our state? Never.
Meanwhile, Maroon Chief Richard Curry has hit back at Prime Minister Holness, urging him to respect the human and indigenous rights of his people. In a post on his Instagram account yesterday evening, Curry defended the sovereignty of the Maroons and suggested that Holness reflects on his stance.
Each person on this island must decide who they are. The world is watching. Our ancestors are watching. The Most High is watching. Therefore, in closing, Mr. Holness, I say this to you. We, the Maroons of Cockpit Country, descendants of the first people of the archipelago now called Jamaica, would like to remind you of a few things. Jamaica is not a unitary sovereign state. Elizabeth II of House of Windsor is your queen and sovereign. Jamaica is simply fully responsible in Elizabeth's Commonwealth. 2, you are a signatory to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. Please go read this. You are an intelligent man. Jamaica has an extensive external debt and is constantly begging, so you rely on other sovereign nations. In other words, you are receiving funding from others. So please consider human and indigenous rights before you end up defunded as well. Jamaica, as a government entity, begged for its independence, whereas the Maroons waged war for 83 years. The war is now over. The right to remit was passed to the government of Jamaica, as the British High Commissioner explained in his speech. Not once, but twice, while you were sitting in front of him. I say this, please, please, let good sense prevail. Do the right thing, and please be guided accordingly.
However, the legal opinion on Curry's pronouncement says the Maroon leader is way off the mark. Attorney at law and political commentator Linton Gordon attempts to set the record straight.
There's no middle ground, and there is no sense in what Colonel Curry is saying. The Maroon communities or Maroon lands are not any separate states. They are not, they cannot, and they will not. So in that regard, if you divorce the Prime Minister's emotion and you look at what he's saying, he's absolutely correct. Jamaica is a unitary state. Curry has gone off his mind, and I think somebody should call him, sit him down, and tell him to stop chatting foolishness. A sovereign state must have boundaries well defined. A sovereign state is one in which you need a visa, passport, or official permission to enter and to leave that state. Are there any boundaries between the rest of Jamaica and the Maroon lands, which you have to pass and present a passport to get in or to leave? No. The sovereign state has characteristics: certainty of boundary, international recognition, currency, authority to use another person's currency, and above all, registration and citizenship for those persons in that state. There's no such thing. So this young man is just grabbing some words, using them without even understanding what they mean.
Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Colleen May.
Thank you, Colleen, for that report. In the meantime, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has once again defended the stance that the zones of special operations, ZOSOs, have been successful despite the country recording 1,439 murders last year. Mr. Holness, who was speaking at the press briefing yesterday, said the enhanced security measure is a legislative tool designed to intervene in communities that have been captured by criminal elements.
The zones of special operations is a legislative tool designed to intervene in circumstances where geographically defined, usually in a limited way, less than a parish, communities have been captured by criminal elements. The communities that we have targeted so far for this kind of intervention are communities with clearly defined infrastructure that allows the police force to put in place certain static and dynamic strategies, such as to set up controls of ingress and egress, conduct searches, and do public order policing. So far, I think we can all agree that the zones of special operations, where they have been implemented, have worked. We initially designed the plan to target the top 20 communities that were plagued with crime and violence in an increasing way, particularly murders, shootings, and gang-related activities. So the zones of special operations, therefore, are designed as a community building tool. They have working in parallel with them a special social intervention committee.
He added that he is advising the public that the ZOSO is a long-term strategy and a community building tool.
I want the country to bear in mind that this is a long-term strategy. Yes, when we do intervene in the communities, you see an immediate reduction in violence. The gangs disperse, the criminals leave the area, they cannot return to conduct their criminal activities. But it is more than that. It is more than a displacement strategy. It is a strategy to harden the area against the return and re-institutionalization of criminality in the communities. So we are building peace in the community. We are building people who will become wardens of the peace. We're giving people opportunity to become employed. We are improving the environment and conditions of the community, particularly garbage collection and improving their built environment, removal of zinc fences, putting in sewage where none existed before, ensuring that water and electricity are regularized. And we believe that this nexus between the security operation and the community development operation will ensure that these communities will sustain the peace for a long period of time. You can imagine that this is therefore a resource-intense activity. And it is a long-term commitment from the JCF and the JDF in men and material.
Security forces moved into the area at dawn yesterday to begin the clear, hold, and build strategy under the ZOSO legislation. The Prime Minister says he has accepted the recommendation of the security chiefs that the zone was needed to combat what he says is a wanton breakdown of law and order. Meanwhile, Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says there are two main gangs operating in the central Kingston area that are causing deaths and mayhem.
So the ongoing violence in the Kingston Central Police Division has raised significant concerns. The level of gun violence has contributed to fear in the community, and the deaths of a number of members, relatives, and affiliates of the two gangs that have been feuding in that space since last year. There are two main criminal gangs there, and these are supported by affiliate gangs from the surrounding communities. And in spite of a number of them being arrested, a number of them actually being killed by their opponents or cronies in some cases, and those that have fled the country, the feuding continues and the violence continues.
Major General Anderson further explained that the area recorded a steady tally of murders last year and that the criminals are unconcerned about the vulnerable.
These gang members are unconcerned about the vulnerable, whether it is a pregnant woman, a child, or the elderly, as they further their own selfish goals. We saw this play out last year, where for the period January 1 to December 31st, i.e. the entire year, the Kingston Central Police Division recorded 79 murders. It's an increase of 55% when compared to the corresponding period of 2020, and the second highest percentage increase among all police divisions. This is an average of about 3 murders every 2 weeks. There was a brief respite from this over that period in November when we implemented another enhanced security measure in that space. But these gang conflicts over that Kingston Central Division affect Almond Town, Rose Gardens, and the downtown business district. And we've also seen some spillover into Kingston East. The Parade Gardens community, which is really the focus of the Zone of Special Operations, recorded 16 of these murders and is ranked among the top 10 communities with the highest murders across the country. A number of these killings have been perpetrated by and on persons who grew up together and have subsequently chosen a life of violence where they resolve conflicts by murder. Families are disrupted, children are deprived of their childhood as they're recruited into the gangs or forced to take on parenting responsibilities for their siblings when their parents are murdered.
The police commissioner urged persons who can assist the police to contact the police emergency number or the Central Kingston Police Station.
As we work to restore public safety, we ask for the patience and understanding of residents and persons doing business in or transiting the declared area. So the public can assist us by contacting Crime Stop at 311, by contacting the Kingston Central Police, and certainly by complying with the requests of security officers at checkpoints and along the roads and routes in the community, by adhering to curfew guidelines, and by also notifying the JCF of any things that may be that our own members may have done, bring it to our attention very quickly so we can address those matters. For the most part, we have seen our joint forces, our police officers conduct themselves in a very professional manner in all of these enhanced security measures. We will continue to do all that we must to bring this level of violence under control. That responsibility we take seriously. Despite our numerous challenges, the men and women of the JCF remain committed to showing respect for all, observing the rule of law, and remaining a force for good. The
ZOSO will be in place for a period of 60 days. In other news tonight, residents of Parade Gardens in central Kingston are cautiously welcoming the newly enforced Zones of Special Operations ZOSOs, with some admitting that there are trust issues with the police and that this will not bring back the lives that are already lost. Here is Killeen May with more on this story.
Residents of Paradise Gardens in central Kingston are cautiously welcoming a just enforced Zone of Special Operations, ZOSO, with some admitting that there are trust issues with the police and others declaring that the police presence give them peace of mind.
Well, it kind of cool down the place still, but that not enough. Some work we want, because when the ZOSO them gone, you don't know, we still out of job same. So if we can find more job, and big people can come to the area and look out for the man them and find something to get them do, things that are better. Yeah, definitely. At the top that. You understand me? Because we love the area, You understand me? We just want the phone you should done, but we want some more job, more work. Because nothing now go on in the ghetto. They're not really us alone. Every ghetto we are talking about. We need something to go on for the whole Jamaica ghetto. You understand me? The whole island.
Feel good, man. Because before that, before the police come, a peer gunshot, people are dead, all kind of thing are going on. People are dead. I see a little difference, I don't see nobody run up and down like one time, and nobody say murder, and nobody say man kill him and man dead on the same. I hear that.
Yeah, I see some footballer play all on different ends yesterday. Yeah, footballer play and that couldn't go on a little time ago. We want the police in this area more often. Because when you're not here, you see how it goes. Lost a life, Right now, I don't have no problem with it. I'm more glad to see them one than don't. At least you can see some difference. Some people don't even see them.
Others said that if it were imposed earlier, more lives would have been saved.
Like when vehicles coming in more would search, people feel much safer by that. But otherwise from that I'm happy because at least I can, I know my kids are out there, grandkids, and they'll be much safer coming about.
Yeah, the ZOSO is all good, There was nothing wrong with that, It should have come a little earlier. Maybe would have saved some more life, Because you already saw that going over from 2020, this thing has started. And if, why? Thanks to Mr. McGregor. I must say thanks to Mr. McGregor. I don't know if I can say thanks to the minister and the mayor, but thanks to Mr. McGregor. No whole heap of changes not there, but the police them being here is a good. It's a plus for the community, Maybe some stability can come back or something like that. But the only year says only 2 months them there first, so on to the other 10 months down the line. Because remember, this thing I don't done. It's just because the police is here.
Central Kingston, which has been turned into an active war zone by competing gangs, according to the police, for the period January 1 to December 31 last year, recorded 79 murders. Reporting for Mello TV News, I'm Killeen May.
Thank you, Killeen, for that report. And as we continue with the news tonight, the police in St. James say they are still trying to establish the motive behind a fatal attack in the Lilliput community on Saturday night. The incident left 1 man dead and 3 persons, including a female, nursing gunshot wounds. The deceased has since been identified as Cedric Brown, otherwise called Simple, laborer, also of a Lilliput address. Reports from the Barrytown Police coming into our news center are that at approximately 7:30 p.m., the victims were at a shop and a bar in the area when they were ambushed by 3 men armed with guns. The gunmen opened fire, hitting Brown and the 3 other victims before making their escape in the area. The police were summoned, and upon their arrival, all 4 victims, who were discovered suffering from gunshot wounds, were transported to the Cornwall Regional Hospital, where Brown was pronounced dead and the other victims treated and admitted. As we continue with the news tonight, a Glock pistol with a magazine containing a 9mm cartridge was seized during a police military operation in Providence Heights, St. James yesterday. 3 persons were taken into custody. The police reports coming into our news center are that between 5:30 and 6:45 a.m., the team was conducting operations in the community. A house occupied by the 3 was searched and the weapon was found. They were subsequently arrested pending further investigations.